We are building the Wordle project from the WiByte Python curriculum available at www.wibyte.in. Previously, we saw how using this guess variable in a global with a global keyword, we could get our guesses to appear quite nicely as labels. Every subsequent guess going to a new row. For example, here, let's say I try party. Um, you know, I get quite nicely arranged labels. I try, let's say, cares. I get the next set of labels. I try, say, music. Every label comes out quite nicely in a nice place, in the correct place. Now the next step for us is to make sure that these labels acquire the right color. For that purpose, let's just go back and revise the rules once again. Remember, labels which are letters that do not appear in the word, for example in this case Y, C and D, they remain gray in color. For those that are in the word, we determine if the placement is correct. So if the position of the letter is not correct, that becomes yellow. If the position is also correct, that becomes green. So rules are very simple. In fact, this is not very hard, but we have to be quite careful so that we don't make a mistake over here. So let's just go back to our code. Remember, the way the code is working is that we first figure out if this is a valid word, and that we do by looking at the word list. If it's indeed a valid word, then we create these labels. Now this label gets created inside a for loop because for every letter we go and create one label. We must give individual color to every label, which means that any subsequent processing also has to happen inside the for loop. And this is very important because this is happening for every letter. And which is why I come inside my for loop. Notice my indentation is very important here. In fact, first we'll look at the case where the letter is not part of the word, and then we'll come back and fix the situation where the letter is indeed a part of the word. Once you get the structure in place, it's not hard. The important bit is, like I said, it must be inside the for loop because this must happen for every label out there. So I asked myself, look, if guessed word, say KK element of the guessed word is in chosen word. Now this is important. I'm just trying to figure out if this letter is even in the word or not. So I say if this is in chosen word, well, like I said, we'll look at that case a little bit later. So I come and say pass for now. Else, which means it's not part of the word, so I can just put a comment here, letter not part of the word. I must make the label gray and the text white. So I'll just go and say label dot say config. Let's say config say bg equals to say gray, and label dot config say fg equals to white. Now we'll see this working, but again, important thing to understand that this is a part of the for loop. See this from the indentation because this must happen again and again. Now let's see this working. Word here is cable. Let's say I try party. Notice A remains unchanged. P, R, T and Y have acquired a white foreground. That means the text is white and the gray background. That's because P, R, T and Y are not a part of cable. In fact, A is a part of cable and A is also in the right position. But right now that part of the code is passed, so nothing is happening there. We can take one more example. So the word is bombs. I try say music. Notice M and S are unchanged because bombs contains M and S. U, I and C are not a part of bombs. That's why they have become gray background and white foreground. So that's how it works. Now let's focus the attention on letters that are a part of the word, which means we go inside this if statement. So I'm going to remove this pass. Again, remember the rule. If the letter is in the right position, we are going to make it green. If the letter is in the word but not in the right position, we are going to make it yellow. And that's really all we need to do. So I come in here and I say, look, if guessed word KK is same as say chosen word KK. Now here we are indexing strings with the same index. So if the letter is in the right position, then indeed this condition must come correct. I'm going to just say, well, label.config. I'm going to set the background to say green and the foreground to white. Else, which means the letter is in the word but not in the right position. So I'll just put, let's say, we can make some comments here. Letter in the word and say, let's say, in the correct position and in an incorrect position, in an incorrect position. So if that happens, in an incorrect position, if this happens, we are going to make the the label yellow in color. I'm going to use um, the color that I used is gold because that looks quite nice. But really this is complete and correct. Let's kind of look at this code once again. Notice this is all inside the for loop, and that part is very, very important. Inside the for loop, for every letter, I basically check if it's in the chosen word. Then I go and figure out if it's in the right place or the wrong place. But if it's not in the chosen word, I just make it gray. It's quite logical, a nested if here, but very sensible. So let's just now see this working. Let's say the word is round. Now this is nice. So if I try, for example, party, notice now this is really in action. P, A, T, and Y are not part of round. R is in the round, but R is in an incorrect place. So that's why R becomes yellow. Let's say I try, let's say music. Well, it turns out that U is in the word, but not in the right place. Let's say I try honed. Now, honed is interesting because O and D are in the right place. H and E are not in the word. That's why they remain gray. N is in the word, but not in the right place. That's why it's yellow. But now I already know what the word letters are. It's R. I know it's going to be R, O, U, and D because O and D are in their places. I can, in fact, guess it correctly. Having known this, everything becomes green. And in fact, I have guessed the word correctly. Quite logical, quite sensible, but just has to be done a little bit carefully. I hope you found this interesting. In general, if you think this way of learning where we build interesting activities to learn programming, if this appeals to you, look at our website because we have many, many, many such activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.